Good afternoon, Mr. Diaz. Sir, you've been arrested on 2 additional charges, aggravated assault with a deadly weapon and committing domestic battery by strangulation.
Yes, sir.
I've reviewed the affidavit. Mr. Ruth, do you want to make any, you said you have not been able to access this affidavit, correct?
No, Judge. No, Judge. We're just here today to, at this point, we're asking just for a reasonable bond. Mr. Diaz is 19 years old, employed. He has close family ties, no prior criminal history.
All right, State, do you wish to be heard?
No, Your Honor, we leave it at the discretion of the court. We'd just be asking for no contact with the victim, of course, which sounds like it was already ordered in the assault case, and then also no weapons or firearms. My understanding is they have separate residence because part of the affidavit starts off that she went there to do an exchange. So I don't think separate residence is an issue at this case.
Right, she went there to get her belongings.
Right.
It's thin probable cause. It's a very short affidavit, but I will find probable cause for these charges. I'm going to set bond. These charges, I guess, date back to September. They were not made at the time. Based on the circumstances, I'm going to set bond at $500 on count 1 and $500 on count 2. That will be with pretrial release conditions, and there can be no contact with the alleged victim, no possession of weapons or firearms while you're out on bond. All right?
Yes, sir.
Anything else, Mr. Ruth?
No, thank you, Judge. Have a great day. And I appreciate you accommodating us today.
Thank you. All right. Thank you, Mr. Diaz.
Thank you as well, sir.
All right. And who else is there at the jail council?
He's approaching now, Your Honor.
Okay.
It's Mr. Mullins.
Mr. Mullins, good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. Ernie Mullins on behalf of Charlotte Champo.
Okay. Let me pull up her file here. Charlotte Chapo. This is 2021 CF 3433. Ms. Chapo, good afternoon. The charge you were arrested for, ma'am, is child abuse without great bodily harm. I've reviewed the affidavit. I do find enough for probable cause. Seems like there's quite a history behind these charges. Mr. Mullins, you wish to be heard on the issue of bond? Yeah.
Just, the only thing that seems to tie, first off, she has authority over if she's the grandmother and they're living in the same home, whether the mother gives permission or not. The mother is actually under an injunction. Ms. Chapo found it necessary to take out an injunction against her daughter, and that was in 2019 DR 43. I'm sorry, that's not the one. It's I didn't have that case number because she just got it on Wednesday and we just had the weekend, so I don't think it's posted yet on the benchmark. But she has an injunction pending, a temporary injunction pending. There's a hearing December 7th. So so the mother's outside the home. She's dealing with these two underage children, and I'm not sure that I know the court's already found probable cause, but
I didn't base that on anything the mother granted or didn't grant because as I read the affidavit, Ms. Chapo has legal custody over the youth at this time. I mean, is there a statute that would say this constitutes appropriate punishment?
Well, I don't think there's a statute, Your Honor, that indicates that. I think there's that Kama case, but this is the kind of thing where, the only thing that's tying her to this is there's an allegation of a pinch, and then
And a red mark.
on his arm.
Right.
And there's nothing that indicates that purple mark came from that pinch. I mean, I don't know which arm did she pinch him on, where, that could have been anything. So I would ask the court to set bond, or set I guess there's under 827, or I'm sorry, under, what was that?
Well, here's the bigger issue in this case.
Yeah.
Who's going to have custody of the youth? Are these kids going into foster care?
Well,
because
that's what I think needs to happen, because the mother, when she was served with the injunction, went ahead and left the house and left 3 kids behind. So I would say she did that to cause my client a problem.
One's 19 years old, so that's not a kid.
That's right.
Right.
The other 2
right.
are underage, and they're not being supervised a lot of the time. So.
All right. So. And that's why I said what I said when I read the affidavit. It seems like there's quite a bit of history here. I think there is sufficient for probable cause, but again, it's thin. The circumstances are what they are.
Your Honor, I would like to add for the record that Ms. Chappell has no prior arrest.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to grant release ROR with the condition that Ms. Chappell have no contact with the alleged victim, and will have to maintain a separate residence from the alleged victim. I think that's going to mean the alleged victim is going to have to be placed into custody of Department of Children and Families. I don't know. I guess I will need to follow up with that. I've not had the circumstance before. Who needs to notify the Department of Children and Families? State, do you have any experience with that issue?
No, I haven't, Your Honor. I would only run into an issue with we can't order the victim then there's to vacate the residence. We can only order the defendant to vacate the residence.
Well, the victim is a minor and can't live alone. So
Well, there's an adult, their supervisor, adult, 19-year-old sister there, Your Honor, that's living there as well.
well, the 19-year-old sister does not have custody over the youth. And so Ms. Chapo can go back to her residence. I'll follow up with Department of Children and Families.
They would also ask her to comply with all DCF inquiries and investigations as well, Your Honor.
Yeah, Ms. Chapo, you cannot return to your residence as long as the youth are there or the alleged victim is there. So you're going to have to wait for DCF to do something before you can return to that residence, because you cannot have contact. And contact means you can't be within 500 feet. All right. I'm going to order that you comply with all safety plans and case plans of the Department of Children and Families. You may not possess any weapons or firearms while you are on release. Mr. Mullins, anything else?
I just want to be clear, Your Honor. Do we have that the provisions that the court just now announced would be automatically imposed? They would not. It's not something that we would have to come back and bring by way of a motion.
What specifically are you asking about?
If the child is removed by DCF, she can just automatically go back home.
Right. If the child is not living in the home, but as long as the child is at the home, she cannot go back to the home.
Okay, but once the child is removed, we don't have to seek further court approval.
I don't know what DCF is going to do. Maybe DCF puts the child in custody of the 19-year-old sister, and the 19-year-old sister's living there, and so it could be more complicated. I don't know. So you'll have to use your judgment depending on how things shake out.
Okay, thank you, Your Honor.
All right.
That's all I have.
Sure. All right. Roberto Cuman Vasquez. And this is case number 21 CT 3278.
Sorry, Your Honor, we missed the name. Can you repeat that one more time?
Yeah, Cuman Vasquez. Roberto.
He's under John Doe 3175.
Oh, okay. He's present and approaching, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you. Do we need an interpreter or no?
Yes, Your Honor, we need an interpreter for both John Does today.
Okay, great. I will get them on here.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. This is Alan Figueroa, State Certified Spanish Court Interpreter.
Good afternoon, Mr. Figueroa. I have a couple of individuals at the jail who are ready for arraignment. This is case number 2021 CT 3278, John Doe 3175, also known as Roberto Cuman Vasquez.
¿Me escucha, señor? Señor, ¿me escucha?
He's talking to the lawyer.
Márquez. Alberto Márquez.
Marquez is your last name, sir? Okay.
No, Márquez.
All right. All right, sir, you were arrested for driving under the influence of alcohol or drugs. Specifically, you were charged with riding a bicycle under the influence of alcohol or drugs.
Bien, señor, usted fue arrestado por conducir bajo los efectos, específicamente por conducir una bicicleta bajo los efectos de droga o de alcohol.
Alcohol no droga, fíjese para hablar.
Alcohol, not drugs, alcohol.
All right, I have reviewed the affidavit of arrest. I do find probable cause.
He leído el affidavit de arresto, determino que existen indicios de criminalidad.
You're entitled to be represented by a lawyer. I'm going to provisionally appoint the Public Defender's Office to represent you.
Usted tiene derecho a un abogado, le designaré a la oficina del defensor público para que lo represente.
If you wish to have that office represent you for the duration of your case, you'll need to complete an affidavit.
Se le designará a la oficina del defensor público provisionalmente. Si desea que se le designe a la oficina del defensor público de manera permanente durante el caso completo, tiene que llenar una solicitud.
State, do you have an offer on this case?
¿Fiscalía tiene alguna oferta en este caso?
No, I do not, Your Honor.
En este momento no, su señoría.
All right. All right, I need to set a bond. He unfortunately does not qualify for pretrial release. You wish to be heard on bond?
Bien, se necesita fijar una fianza. Él no reúne los requisitos para la libertad provisional. ¿Desean opinar con respecto a la fianza?
At this time, Your Honor, defense would just be requesting a reasonable bond be set in this case.
La defensa desea pedir que se fije una fianza razonable en este caso.
No sé de cuánto sea la fianza.
I don't know how much the bond is going to be.
All right. Officer Hill, do you know if this gentleman has any history?
Licenciado, ¿sabe si el caballero tiene algún antecedente?
Running his name and the information received to us by the FBI, he has no prior arrest. However, it was reported that he is illegally in the United States.
Buscando por su nombre y con la información que hemos recibido, no parece tener ningún antecedente de arresto, pero sí se encuentra de manera ilegal en los Estados Unidos.
Sí.
All right. I can't consider his immigration status in determining conditions of pretrial release. He's entitled to release under Florida law.
Yo no puedo tomar el hecho que esté acá de manera ilegal como un factor en el caso. Él tiene el derecho a fianza.
All right, I'm going to set bond at $100.
Se fijará la fianza en $100.
You may,
Pero yo puedo ir pagando poco a poco porque yo no tengo trabajo seguido. Yo tengo trabajo cada 12 días a la semana, un día.
Can I pay that little by little? Because I don't have work constantly. I have work every couple of weeks for a day.
all right, your lawyer, sir, will be able to assist you with any further motions regarding conditions of release.
Su abogado puede asistirle con cualquier duda o pregunta que usted tenga, señor, con respecto a las condiciones de la libertad.
All right. You know what? Here's what I'm going to do. Based on the circumstances and based on the fact there's not a prior history, apparently, I'm going to grant ROR. And I'm going to order that you maintain weekly contact with the Public Defender's Office.
Bien, esto es lo que haré. Dado las circunstancias y dado los hechos del caso y que no hay antecedentes, se le emitirá la libertad bajo palabra, con la condición de que debe comunicarse semanalmente con la oficina del defensor público.
Okay.
And I'm going to order the Public Defender's Office to notify the division judge if a week passes without contact with the defendant.
Understood.
Y le voy a pedir a la oficina del defensor público que notifique al juez del caso si él no se comunica con la oficina del defensor público cada semana. Entendido, su señoría.
All right. And anything else, counsel?
¿Algo más, licenciado?
I would just ask for no alcohol, Your Honor.
Que se le prohíbe el uso de alcohol, su señoría.
I can't really enforce that because I can't have him tested, so I'm not going to order that. I will order that you not use or possess any drugs or narcotics without a valid prescription.
Que se le prohíbe el uso de alcohol, su señoría. No puedo emitir esa condición ya que no tengo ninguna manera de someterlo a una prueba para monitorearlo, así que lo que sí impondré es esto: se le prohíbe el uso o consumo de ningún tipo de droga o sustancia regulada a menos que tenga una receta médica. Okay.
Defense, anything further?
Alcohol, lo que yo tomo es alcohol, no droga.
It's only alcohol. What I drink is only alcohol, no drugs.
Nothing from defense at this time, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. Do we have any other individuals who need the assistance of the interpreter?
Nada más de parte de la defensa, gracias.
Yes, Your Honor. It's John Doe 3176.
John Doe 3176, aka Christian Pardo Ariano.
Present and approaching, Your Honor.
Good afternoon, sir.
Buenas tardes, señor. Good afternoon.
This is case number 2021 MM3089.
Número de caso 21 MM3089.
All right, sir, you were arrested for the charge of misdemeanor battery, domestic violence.
Señor, usted fue arrestado por la falta de agresión física en violencia doméstica.
Yo no pensaba que era una, como quisiera decirse, una falta de hacer lesión a mi interno, pero...
Sir, don't say anything about your case, okay?
Señor, por favor, no diga nada sobre el caso. ¿Bien?
Okay.
Okay. Sorry.
Mr. Interpreter, was he talking about his case?
The interpreter didn't catch everything, Your Honor. I wouldn't be able to render an accurate interpretation of what was said.
Okay, so good enough. All right, so I've told you the charge. Sir, you're entitled to be represented by a lawyer. I'm going to provisionally appoint the Public Defender's Office to represent you. If you wish to be represented by that office for the duration of your case, you will need to complete an affidavit regarding your financial status.
Señor, usted tiene derecho a un abogado, se le designará de manera provisional a la Oficina de Defensor Público para que lo represente por ahora. Si usted desea que la Oficina de Defensor Público lo represente por el caso completo, deberá llenar un affidavit financiero como solicitud.
No hay problema.
Not a problem.
I did review the charging affidavit. I do find probable cause.
He leído el documento que se trae y determino que existen indicios de criminalidad.
You don't qualify for pretrial release.
Usted no reúne los requisitos para la libertad provisional.
State, do you wish to be heard on bond?
Fiscalía desea opinar con respecto a la fianza.
Your Honor, I would just say, it doesn't sound like he has any ties here, so I'd take that in consideration, Your Honor, and leave the rest of that at your discretion.
Señoría, solamente quisiera decir que parece que él no tiene ningún vínculo acá en la comunidad. Quisiera que tomase eso en cuenta para fijar la fianza.
Defense, how about you? You wish to be heard on bond?
Yes, Your Honor. We'd just be asking for a reasonable bond in this case. It does seem he has multiple loved ones in the area, and that the events in question, while he pushed the other parties, seem to have injured him more. So we'd just be asking for a reasonable bond and no hostile contact. The PTR is not on the table. So.
Pienso, defensa, ¿se opina con respecto a la fianza? Sí, su señoría. Parece que él tiene vínculos suficientes acá en la comunidad y aunque parezca ser que él fue el que empujó a la otra parte en este altercado, parece que él fue el que terminó más lesionado, así que quisiéramos pedir que se emita una fianza razonable y que se prohíba el contacto con hostilidad.
Your Honor, he has no convictions and he has no prior violent offenses. He had a couple theft charges back in 2017, all of which were dropped, nothing since.
So, señoría, él no tiene ningún fallo condenatorio ni tiene antecedentes por ningún ilícito violento. Sí tiene un par de cargos por hurto o ratería del 2017, pero los cargos fueron retirados.
So is Sidney Martinez here? I may be mispronouncing that name, but is Ms. Martinez the alleged victim here?
Se encuentra, quizás esté diciendo mal nombre, pero la señora Martínez, la supuesta víctima, ¿se encuentra presente?
No, no está aquí. Está
No, she's not here.
All right, I don't see anyone here in the courtroom. All right, sir, based on the nature of the charge and based on your lack of history, I'm going to set a relatively low bond like I would in any other case under the same circumstances.
Bien, señor, dadas las circunstancias y dada la falta de antecedentes, voy a fijar una fianza relativamente baja, como la fijaría con cualquier otro cargo bajo estas mismas circunstancias.
So I'm going to set bond at $500.
Se fijará la fianza en $500.
You may not have any contact with the alleged victim.
Se le prohíbe el contacto con la supuesta víctima.
The alleged victim is the boyfriend of Ms. Martinez and apparently does not live with them. State, is there any issue with my allowing the defendant to return to his residence as long as there's no hostile contact with the victim's girlfriend who does live in the residence?
Bien, parece ser que la víctima fue el novio de la señorita Martínez, quien parece ser que no vive con ellos, así que Fiscalía, alguna objeción a que él se le permita regresar a su residencia y que se le prohíbe el contacto con hostilidad con la novia de la supuesta víctima.
Your Honor, it's my understanding they're kind of all living together, so I would ask for separate residence. From the beginning of the charging affidavit, it makes it sound like they're all living together.
Su señoría, leyendo el affidavit fue mi entender que ellos todos viven juntos, así que quisiera pedir que tenga que buscarse otro paradero.
I do see that now. Okay.
Lo veo ahora.
Sir, does Chandor Petrus live in the residence where you live?
Señor, ¿el señor Chindro Patrick vive en la misma residencia que usted?
Y resulta que ellos están de ahí buscándose casa para arrendar, pero nosotros lo admitimos una semana con mi mujer.
Yes, they're looking for a place to rent, but we allow them to stay with us for a week.
All right. So you may not return to your residence as long as Chandor Petrus is at that residence.
Bien, no puede regresar a su casa mientras Shendor Petris esté viviendo en esa casa.
No hay problema, que yo espero el momento que ellos tengan su casa y yo iré a la casa de un amigo a quedarme mientras ellos se buscan su casa.
Not a problem. I'll stay at a friend's house while they're looking for a place to stay, and once they're out, I'm moving.
All right. And if you need to return to get personal belongings, I will allow you to go one time with law enforcement.
Bien, si necesita regresar a la residencia para recoger sus pertenencias, le permitiré regresar una vez junto a las autoridades.
Ok, no hay problema.
Okay, not a problem.
Yes, sir.
Your Honor, state would also request no weapons or firearms.
La fiscalía también quisiera pedir que se le prohíba la tenencia de ningún tipo de arma o arma de fuego.
No, yo no tengo nada de eso.
I don't have any of that.
Yeah, I was about to get there. So no weapons or firearms while this case is pending, okay?
Bien, y también la condición de cero armas o armas de fuego mientras esté el caso vigente. ¿De acuerdo? Okay. Okay, I don't have any of that, so yes.
And no contact, your lawyer can explain that, but no contact means you can't have contact directly or indirectly through another individual.
Y su abogado se lo explicará con más detalle, pero cero contacto significa ningún tipo de contacto, ni directa, ni directamente, ni a través de otra persona.
No hay problema de nada.
Not a problem.
All right, thank you, sir.
Gracias.
Thank you, Your Honor.
All right, I think that was our last individual who needs the interpreter. Is that right, counsel?
Yes, I believe so, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Figueroa.
Not a problem, Your Honor.
All right, that brings us to Reuben George.
Sorry, Your Honor.
Reuben George, and there's Mr. George. Mr. George, good morning or good afternoon, sir. This is 2021 CF 3429. Mr. George, you were arrested on an arrest warrant issued by another judge. The charge for which you were arrested is domestic aggravated battery.
What?
That's the charge. The other judge found probable cause. I'm questioning this. State, where is the, I see probable cause for a battery. I don't see probable cause for aggravated battery. What's the weapon?
Your Honor, all I have a copy is the warrant because there was a warrant that was signed in this case.
Yeah, I'm looking at the affidavit and I reviewed it for purposes of setting bond and I see probable cause for battery, but not for an aggravated battery.
One moment, Your Honor.
Looks like she fell back and hit a metal pole, but that's, it seems the battery was a simple push.
And Your Honor, for the record, we did have contact with the alleged victim, and she was not able to appear today. However, she is requesting contact.
All right. Defense, you wish to be heard?
Your Honor, I also only had access to the warrant with no arrest affidavit, so I know as much as the state does at this moment.
Okay. Well, as I said, there is probable cause for battery. I do question whether there's an aggravated battery. That will affect my bond decision.
And for the record, he has no prior arrest.
All right. So, but he does not qualify for PTR, this says.
Correct.
How long has Mr. George lived in the area?
Your Honor, he's indicating he's been in Florida for about a year.
All right. All right, Mr. George, I'm going to set your bond at $500. I'm going to order that you not possess any weapons or firearms while the case is pending. Pretrial release has been in touch with the alleged victim who does request contact. Under the circumstances, I'm going to allow non-hostile contact.
For the record, Your Honor, the state would be objecting.
I understand. I'm allowing that based on the entirety of the circumstances that I'm seeing in the affidavit, as well as there seems to be a mental health component in play here. So I'm going to allow contact, but no hostile contact. All right, Mr. George?
Yes.
All right, any questions?
No.
Okay, thank you. All right, then that brings us to, and forgive me in advance, Peter Muiu.
President approaching, Your Honor. Also, we'd be requesting we waive the reading of the formal charges.
Okay. Sir, how do you pronounce your last name? Mui. Okay, I was close. All right, sir. This is case number 2021 CF 3366. The public defender has waived reading of the charges. You're entitled to be represented by a lawyer. I'm going to provisionally appoint the office of the public defender. By the way, I'm going to provisionally appoint the public defender on Mr. George's case as well.
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, I reviewed the affidavit, and this was an arrest warrant, so there is probable cause. The charge does not qualify for PTR. Defense, do you wish to be heard for bond conditions?
Yes, Your Honor. At this time, we'd just be requesting a reasonable bond be set in this case.
All right, in state?
We leave it at the discretion of your court, Your Honor. We just take into the allegations in consideration, please.
Yeah, the alleged victim and the defendant are acquainted. All right, I'm going to set bond at $10,000. If necessary, your attorney can bring the issues of release to the division judge. There'll be no contact with the alleged victim. No possession of any weapons or firearms. No use of any drugs or narcotics without a valid prescription. No possession of those either. Okay, anything else, State?
Based on the allegations, Your Honor, we'd ask for like no internet usage.
I think that's a bit of a stretch based on these charges. I'll deny that. Defense, anything else?
No, offense, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. All right, Mr. Baldwin, Paul Baldwin.
President approaching, Your Honor.
Mr. Baldwin, this is case number 2021 CT 3276. The state charged you, sir, with, or arrested you for the charge of leaving the scene of an accident with property damage. I reviewed the affidavit of arrest. I do find probable cause. I'm going to provisionally appoint the public defender to represent you. You can hire a private counsel, or if you qualify, the court will appoint the public defender's office after you complete the required affidavit. You do qualify for direct PTR under the court's administrative order, so I'm going to reduce bond from $500 to direct pretrial release. Those will be the conditions of your release. If you violate those conditions, you'll be rearrested. Okay?
Yes, sir.
Anything else, counsel?
Not at this time, Your Honor.
Nothing further from the state, Your
All
Honor.
right, thank you. All right, Erica Castellucci.
Your Honor, corrections has asked that she be brought in last.
Okay. Andreas Collado.
President approaching, Your Honor.
This is case number 2021 MM3087. Good afternoon, ma'am. All right, so I reviewed the affidavit of arrest. This is another set of unusual circumstances. There is enough for probable cause. Do we have anyone here to testify on this case? I don't see anyone. All right, ma'am, you do qualify for pretrial release with a bond. Based on the circumstances, I'm going to order that you have no contact with the alleged victim. I'll allow you to return to your residence one time with law enforcement if you live together. Issues regarding child care and child custody will have to be dealt with through a third party. I'm going to set your bond at $500 with pretrial release conditions. You may not possess any weapons or firearms while you are on release in this case. Anything further, State?
Is the court ordering that they maintain separate residence, Your Honor?
Well, I can't tell whether they actually live together or not. I did, yes, I allowed her to go back one time with law enforcement.
Thank you.
All right. So if you don't live together, you can reside at your apartment. If you live together, you can't live there. You can only go back with law enforcement one time. Okay, to get your personal belongings. Okay, thank you, ma'am. 500 with pretrial release conditions. Elena Garcia.
President approaching, Your Honor.
Good afternoon, ma'am. This is 2021 MM3092. All right, do we have anyone here to testify?
Yes, Your Honor. Okay.
I have reviewed the affidavit of arrest. I do find probable cause. You are arrested, ma'am, for misdemeanor battery. I'm going to provisionally appoint the Office of the Public Defender to represent you. You can hire a private attorney, or if you wish to have the public defender represent you for the duration of your case, you'll need to complete an affidavit of your financial status. Sir, raise your right hand to be sworn. You swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Yes, sir.
All right. Tell me your name.
Julian Lee.
Say it again.
Julian Lee.
Okay, spell it for the digital court reporter.
Julianlee.
All right. Mr. Lee, tell me what you would like me to consider with regard to conditions of release.
First of all, I would just like to say I would like all the charges dropped. I'm not pressing charges on anything.
That's not what we're here for today.
Okay,
Okay,
cool.
so today's to advise her of the charge for which she was arrested and to set the conditions of bond and release.
Okay, sure, yes. I don't fear for my life. I'm not scared of her. You know, my safety is not a concern. I really don't know what else.
Okay.
I've never been through this before, so.
Okay, fair enough. State, do you have any questions for Mr. Lee?
I don't have any questions for him, Judge.
Defense?
Not at this time, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right, so she's not eligible for pretrial release except with a bond. It is an unusual circumstance.
He has
in
no
that-
priors.
Yeah, she has no priors. It was, they were out to celebrate. I'm going to grant ROR, and I'm going to order that there be no hostile contact. So you can have contact, it just can't be hostile. If there's any indication that interaction is becoming hostile, ma'am, you need to withdraw because you would be rearrested for violating the terms of release. Okay? All right, you may not possess any weapons or firearms while you are on release in this case. All right, anything else, State?
No, Your Honor.
All right, defense?
No, Your Honor.
All right, thank you, ma'am. Thank you. All right, Jean Green.
Present and approaching, Your Honor.
Good afternoon, Mr. Green. This is 2021 CF 3437. Sir, you were arrested on the charges of misdemeanor battery and felony aggravated assault with a deadly weapon. You're entitled to be represented by a lawyer. I'm going to provisionally appoint the public defender's office to represent you. For today's purposes, you can hire a lawyer or the court will appoint the public defender if you qualify. I reviewed the affidavit of arrest. I do find probable cause. Are there any witnesses here on Mr. Green's case?
No, Your Honor.
All right, no witnesses here. State, do you wish to be heard on conditions of release?
Your Honor, the state is asking that the court impose a condition of no contact in this case, in addition to no weapons or firearms, and that they maintain separate residence. If the defendant does still have belongings that are at the residence, they'd be permitted to return one time with the accompaniment of law enforcement.
All right, defense, do you wish to be heard?
Your Honor, at this time, we would just be requesting that in light of the circumstances, a reasonable bond be set.
All right, Officer Hill, the initial information sheet indicates other legal constraint. Can you elaborate?
Yes, Your Honor, it appears that he may be out on probation out of Connecticut. He was sentenced to 2 years probation on January 23rd, 2020.
Okay. All right, I'm going to set bond in the amount of $2,500 on count 2, $500 on count 1. May not possess any weapons or firearms while on release. You may not have any contact with the alleged victim. All right, you may not reside together, so you're going to only be able to go back to the residence with law enforcement one time to get your personal belongings. Anything else, State?
Nothing further from the state.
All right, thank you, sir. All right, Vikash Mahedo.
Present and approaching, Your Honor, we would also request that the formal reading of the charges be waived in this case as well.
All right. There are actually two cases. This is case number 2021 MM3093, 2021 CF3438. Sir, I'm going to provisionally appoint the public defender to represent you today. You're entitled to be represented by a lawyer in both cases. If you wish to be represented by the public defender, the court will appoint them if you qualify after you complete the required affidavit. You can also hire private counsel. The public defender has waived reading of the charges. I've read the affidavits of arrest. I do find probable cause. I'm going to order that you have no contact with the alleged victims. You may return to the location of the alleged offenses one time with law enforcement to obtain personal belongings. But you must otherwise maintain a separate residence. May not possess any weapons or firearms while on release. In case number 2021 MM3093, I'm going to set bond in the amount of $500. In case number 2021 CF3438, I'm going to set bond in the amount of $15,000. State, are there any other conditions that you would request that I've overlooked?
Not at this time, Your Honor.
Defense?
Not at this time, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you, sir. All right, that brings us to Alondra Pino Rivera.
Present and approaching, Your Honor.
2021 MM3094. Officer Hill, I'm seeing something that says that she's currently out on bond PTR or ROR. What's that all about?
She is currently out on bond on Osceola case 21 MM2923, which is a prior battery. However, it's non-domestic, and a second charge of trespass.
All right.
I did have contact with the alleged victims. I was expecting them to attend.
I believe they're
today.
here, behind you.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. I reviewed the affidavit. I do find probable cause, and I will provisionally appoint the public defender in this case. Ma'am, you're entitled to be represented by a private attorney, or you can have the public defender appointed if you qualify after you complete the required affidavit. If one or both of you would like to come up to testify. Spanish interpreter, okay, come on up. One at a time, yeah.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. This is Alan Figueroa, 605 Spanish Court Interpreter, back on the line.
Hello again, Mr. Figueroa. I have a witness here who's at the lectern, and Deputy Aquendo is about to connect the headset for her.
Your Honor, if the interpreter may ask, which courtroom is the witness going to be?
3D.
3D. The witness can hear me, Your Honor.
All right. Ma'am, raise your right hand to be sworn. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Sí.
Yes.
All right. Tell me your name, please.
Catherine Rivera.
Catherine Rivera.
And is that spelled with a C or a K?
Con K.
With a K.
All right. And tell me, ma'am, what you would like to like for me to consider with regard to conditions of release.
Al hombre de mi hija, ella vive con nosotros. O el de la mesa. Ella vive con nosotros, ella es nuestra hija y nosotros no queremos que ella esté ¿verdad? Fuera de la casa. Esto, lo que sí quisiera que ella pudiera tener un tratamiento emocional y mental.
Yes, I wanted to say that she's my daughter. She lives with us. I don't want her to be outside of the house. What I would like to ask is if she could get some type of emotional or mental treatment.
All right. And so are you, and you're not in fear of Ms. Pino Rivera?
No. No, para nada.
No, not at all.
Would you hesitate to call law enforcement if you became fearful?
No.
No.
The arrest affidavit indicates that she has not been taking medication because she is pregnant. Is that true?
Sí.
Yes.
Has a doctor told her she should not be taking that medication while she's pregnant?
Lo leímos en internet y no ha hecho una cita para cambiar los medicamentos a uno que pudiera usar cuando está embarazada.
We looked it up online, and she hasn't made an appointment yet to switch to a medication that she could take while pregnant.
Your Honor, if I may.
Yes.
He's indicating she did see an OBGYN, sorry, and that he indicated she should stop taking the medication at this time.
All right. She probably needs to see someone who can prescribe that medication and give her an alternative that will help her avoid future interactions with law enforcement. Is there anything else, ma'am, you'd like to say?
Sí, me gustaría que esta oportunidad ¿verdad? De esto que sucedió, que sea para que ella sí realmente coja un tratamiento no como corto, sino que lo pueda ayudar, lo pueda llevar para que ella se estabilice.
Yes, I hope that after this experience, this will help as a trigger for her to actually find a treatment that will be helpful for her and helpful for us.
All right. Does your husband wish to address the court?
Víctor, ¿quiere hablar?
No. Okay. State, do you have questions?
I do briefly, Judge,
okay.
Yes.
Put it back on? Yeah. Okay, go ahead.
Thank you. Ms. Rivera, who resides at your home in addition to yourself and your husband?
Mi esposo.
My husband.
Llevamos 13 años casados.
We've been married for 13 years.
Mi hijo, 2 hijos míos y mi nieto, el hijo de Alondra.
And my son, 2 sons, both mine, and my grandson,
and
her son.
Thank you. And how old are your sons and your grandson?
21, 23 y mi nieto tiene 5.
21, 23, and my grandson is 5.
And since the defendant was arrested, has your grandson remained in your custody?
Sí, todo el tiempo él está.
Yes, all the
Nosotros
time.
somos que lo cuidamos a él.
We're the ones that take care of him.
Okay. The police report indicates that she stopped taking medications as the judge previously referenced. Do you know if your daughter has a diagnosis for a mental health issue?
Sí,
Yes.
Do you know what that diagnosis is?
depresión, anxiety, and bipolar disorder.
Depression, anxiety, and bipolar.
Okay. And has your daughter always resided with you, or has she ever moved out of the home for a period of time?
En este año ella salió y fue a Texas alrededor de 2 meses para probar cómo le iba allá, pero regresó. Antes de eso siempre ha vivido con nosotros.
This year, she moved to Texas for 2 months to see how she would be able to fit over there, but she ended up coming back. Before that, she's always lived with us.
I don't have any further questions, Judge.
Thank you. Defense, any questions?
No questions at this time, Your Honor.
All right, thank you, ma'am. Sir, do you wish to testify? No? Okay. All right. Based on the circumstances and based on the testimony, I am not going to revoke bond in the misdemeanor case. I am going to grant release ROR and case number 2021 MM3094. Mr. Figueroa, are you all right. We don't need the interpreter for your client, do we?
No, Your Honor.
Okay. So conditions of release are going to be no hostile contact with the alleged victim, no possession of weapons or firearms. And this is the most important condition based on what I've read. I'm going to order that within 7 days, an appointment be made with a mental health specialist who can prescribe appropriate medication to be taken while pregnant to assist with the underlying mental health conditions. All right. You may not be able to get in within 7 days, but I'm going to order that that be set up within 7 days and that appointment be scheduled for the soonest available date. And I'm going to order that you advise the medical professionals that you're scheduling that appointment at the order of a court. If that's not done, that's a violation of release and you'll be rearrested. You may not possess any weapons or firearms. If I said that before, state you wish to be heard on other conditions.
Yes, Your Honor. I wanted to clarify first. The court indicated no hostile contact with the victim. I have 2 listed victims on this case. Is that the same for both victims?
Same for both victims, yes.
Thank you. The second thing is this, the state would be requesting that the court order no unsupervised contact with the minor child, given that the child was present at the time of this incident pursuant to the police report. And given the mental health concerns at this time, that's certainly a condition that can later be modified, but I believe it is in the best interest of the minor child and the defendant at this point, Judge.
I'm fine with that. I think that's appropriate. So I'll order no unsupervised contact with the 5-year-old child.
Thank you, Your Honor.
All right. All right. Anything further, defense?
No, this time, Your Honor.
Okay. Thank you.
And Your Honor, just for the interpreter, the case number was 21MM3094.
Let me take a look again. 3094, yes.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. Okay, Stephanie Percuna.
President approaching, Your Honor.
All right, this is case number 2021 MM3095. Good afternoon, Ms. Percuna. Good afternoon. Ma'am, you were arrested for misdemeanor battery. I reviewed the affidavit of arrest and I do find probable cause. Do we have a witness here today?
Yes, sir.
All right, come on up, sir. Ma'am, I'm going to provisionally appoint the Office of the Public Defender to represent you. You're entitled to be represented by a lawyer, so after today, you can hire a private lawyer, or if you qualify, after you complete the affidavit, the court would appoint the public defender to represent you. So raise your right hand to be sworn. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
And state your name for the digital court reporter.
Christopher Foster.
Christopher what?
Foster.
Foster, okay. Tell me what you would like for me to hear and consider, sir.
Just release, because there is no probable cause. She was going through some things. Her daughter got hurt the night before, and her ex-husband kind of had her frustrated, and me and her had an argument about it last night. And instead of just supporting her, I kind of, nagged at her and, got loud with her and yelled at her about the fact of, I guess, not so really supporting me and being too involved in that. And I think that just caused a lot of stress on her. It wasn't really a misdemeanor battery. Like we didn't, fight and throw hands back and forth. It got a little out of control.
All right, so you're not afraid of Ms. Percuna?
No, sir.
State, do you have any questions for Mr. Foster?
No, Your Honor.
Defense?
No questions at this time, Your Honor.
All right, anything else, sir?
I don't know his terms of the release, like whatever the quickest release and easiest is.
Okay. All right, thank you, sir.
And Your
All right.
Honor, for the
Yes.
record, she has no prior arrest.
Okay, thank you. And this is another one where, based on the circumstances, I'm going to grant ROR. You may not possess any weapons or firearms while you're on release in this case. You may not have any hostile contact with the alleged victim, Mr. Foster. All right. Anything else, State?
Nothing further from the state, Judge.
Defense?
Nothing further from the defense, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you. All right, Adrian Zapata Buchanan?
President approaching, Your Honor.
Okay. Sir, how do you pronounce that last name?
Buchanan is Arabic.
Buchanan. Okay, Buchanan. Okay, thank you, sir. All right, you were arrested, sir, for misdemeanor battery, domestic violence. I reviewed the affidavit of arrest. I do find probable cause. You're entitled to be represented by a lawyer. I'm going to appoint the public defender provisionally to represent you today. You will need to fill out an affidavit of financial status if you wish to be represented by the public defender, or alternatively, you may hire private counsel. We don't have any witnesses here today.
Your Honor?
Yes.
I apologize. The deputy did step outside to get a witness on this case. If we can
Okay.
just wait one moment.
Okay. Who's out there with the babies?
A lady.
Okay, there's someone else out there? All right, come on up real quick, ma'am. Is it some random lady, or do we know that it's someone trustworthy?
Some random lady.
That's the mom of the previous case.
Okay, all right, she seemed trustworthy. All right,
Some
raise your right
random
hand to
lady,
be
like I
sworn.
don't even leave them with that.
You swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Yes.
All right, We're being recorded by the digital court reporter. State your name, please.
Mariana Alvarez.
And Ms. Alvarez, how are you connected with the case of Mr. Zapata Buchanin?
He's my fiance.
All right. And tell me what you would like for me to hear and consider.
Like, I never needed him to go to jail. I never tried to put any charges against him. It was just, I'm working with some lady that's trying to help us find a home, and me and him have been having, just being at my parents' house. It's not like the best place because obviously my parents are my parents and they want to just do, because it's their house, and we want to have our own rules. So I was talking to this lady to give us a referral for like family counseling with the housing and to help us be better as parents and better as partners. So they told me, if you guys ever have an argument, just take your statement to the police. That way I can have it, just in case if anything were to happen to you, any of you in the long run, throughout when I give you the referral for the family counseling, I can take it into consideration and you guys can get help, and that way you won't have to pay anything, because right now me and him don't have a job. We had a newborn and she's a preemie, and it just came from Winnie Palmer. We were there for almost 4 months at Ronald McDonald, and we haven't been working. So she was just trying to help us out. So I did that. I gave the statement to the police, but in any way, shape, or form, he didn't willingly try to hurt me at all, ever. He is a good person, and he would never do anything to harm me or the kids.
All right. If you became fearful of Mr. Zapata Buchanin, would you hesitate to call police?
I will never hesitate, but I know he will never do any harm to any of us. He won't hurt a fly. He's very honest and true. He has a good heart. He cares for his daughters a lot. And he cares for me a lot. Like right now, with the situation that I'm going through, after having the baby, he's been my only help. Like, it's just me and him. Even though, yes, we live at my parents and everything, it's just me and him. We have absolutely no help. Like today, I don't have anybody to watch the kids. So I had to bring them with me.
Where would you live if I allowed Mr. Zapata Buchanin to reside with you?
We're in the process of getting our own apartment or housing. It's for people under the age of 24. So I went and talked to this lady, and they're paying for our housing for up to 2 years. And we lived together before on our own, but we unfortunately lost that place because of our old roommate. Didn't pay her end of the rent. And I was out of the country while I was pregnant with our first. And she also got us kicked out because she left my dogs outside to die. And I had no help. I almost lost everything. I was homeless, and he stayed there for me through the hard times. So we're definitely just trying to find our own place. He's getting a job in truck driving. My dad's going to buy him a semi-truck. That's the only help he's ever going to give us, but it'll be the quickest option for us to be together.
All right. State, do you have any questions?
How many children do you have with the defendant?
2.
And how old are they?
The first one is almost 2 in January, and the other one is gonna be 4 months on the 1st.
So you have a 1-year-old and a 4-month-old?
Yes.
Okay. And were your children with you at the time of this incident?
Yes.
Okay. Other than you and him and your 2 children, you said you reside with your parents?
Correct.
Is there anybody else in the residence other than your parents and you and the children and this defendant?
Well, just my 5-year-old brother.
I'm sorry?
My 5-year-old brother.
Okay, so there's another minor child in the residence.
And he's great with my brother. He's basically the reason why we always take my brother out to have fun. He loves kids.
Okay.
He loves...
Do you know if the defendant has any other family here locally?
He has his mom, his family, but they don't help either. Like, we have just been trying to do everything on our own because no one is really willing to help us at all. Because obviously it's our kids and not their kids.
Mhm.
So
And was he employed at the time of this incident?
no, not yet.
When was the last time that he was employed?
Around April.
And what type of work was he doing in
He
April?
was working at Taco Bell in the Florida Mall.
Okay, so since then, for the last 8 months, he's not been employed?
He has not, yes.
Okay, and are you employed?
Not since I had my baby on August 1st.
Okay. I don't have any further questions, Judge.
Defense?
No questions at this time, Your Honor.
All right, thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
All right, Officer Hill, the risk assessment says high. What's the circumstance that leads to that?
I don't have a copy of the risk assessment with me, but we take into consideration how long they've resided in their current residence, whether they have a phone, their age, their stability. I do have his history. He had 2 priors in 2019, grand theft, and then he failed to appear on that grand theft. He was given probation, which he completed successfully. And he has nothing since and no violent history.
Was that a withhold on the grand theft?
No, it was a conviction.
State, do you wish to be heard on release?
Judge, while I'm sympathetic to the circumstances surrounding this incident and certainly the circumstances that the victim in this case described, I do have some concerns about allowing the parties to have contact with one another, given the 3 minor children that also reside in this residence, including a 4-month-old, a 1-year-old, and a 5-year-old. Obviously, the defendant is entitled to bond, and the state has no position on the court setting a reasonable bond amount, but I do have some significant concerns on releasing him. It appears that they spend a significant amount of their time together with neither of them being employed, residing in what the victim herself describes as a stressful situation. I believe releasing him into the same circumstances that led to this incident are a recipe for disaster. So I am asking that if the court does consider modifying the no contact order, that you at the minimum require that they maintain separate residences, at least for the time being, while things cool off a bit and perhaps they can find themselves in a bit of a better situation. But the state is asking for no contact at this time. It does appear he has a mother locally that may be an option for him as far as a residence is concerned.
All right, defense?
Yes, Your Honor. First, if I may, PTR in the jail has informed me that the high risk status was because of his employment status and his length of time in the current residence. Those are the only factors. We'd be asking for no hostile contact, as we just heard from the victim. He's great with children. He loves hanging out with her brother. He has, this is, like I said, a stressful event, but they don't really have anybody but each other as their support system. And she is in no fear and has no problem calling 911 if she is.
All right. A 23-year-old who has a history of working should not be unemployed in the current environment, and maybe things would be a little less stressful if we were being more productive with our time. I am a little bit concerned by the affidavit, which is different from what the alleged victim stated to the court today. At the time of the law enforcement intervention, the victim reported that the accused told her that he wishes that she was dead. They do have 2 young children. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to grant bond in the amount of $500. I'm going to grant that with pretrial release conditions. I'm going to have the condition that the defendant be gainfully employed or enrolled in school 40 hours a week. It will be a violation of your release if you're not.
Is there a time limit?
He's a week. I'll give him a week to find a job. You can't turn around without finding a sign somebody's looking for employees. I'm going to allow non-hostile contact. But I'm going to order that the parties reside together at the alleged victim's parents' house. Actually, no, I'm not. I'm going to order that. Mr. Zapata Buchanan reside with his mother at 1104 Craig Court in St. Cloud. I'm going to order that the alleged victim and the defendant reside separately, but they may have non-hostile contact so that they can coordinate childcare and things of that sort. You may not possess any weapons or firearms. You may not use any drugs or narcotics or possess any drugs or narcotics without a valid prescription. Anything else, State?
Judge, I just want to clarify the condition that they are permitted to have no hostile contact. The court initially just allowed no hostile contact, and then when you were addressing the residents, you referenced no hostile contact so that they can provide for childcare and those things. I just want to make sure, is the court limiting the hostile contact or is it unlimited hostile contact? And that was one example of it.
So they can contact one another, they can communicate, they can't live under the same roof.
Thank you, Your Honor. I just wanted to clarify that for the record.
All right, anything else, defense?
Not at this time, Your Honor.
All right, thanks, sir. That brings us to Ms. Castellucci's case.
They are bringing her as we speak, Your Honor. We'll take a couple moments.
Thank you.
Your Honor, are you off the record?
I'm not.
No?
Are we back on the record, Judge?
We are.
I just wanted to state my name for the record because I stepped in for Mr. Collins and I didn't. It's Crystal Allen for the state. Thank you.
Okay.
Just for the court reporter.
Thanks, Ms. Allen. Is the alleged victim here to testify today?
No, Your Honor.
Your Honor, if I may, she is present and now approaching.
Okay, thank you. All right, Ms. Castellucci, good morning, or good afternoon, rather. This is case number 2021 CF 3431. Ma'am, you were arrested for 2 counts, battery, simple touch or strike, and that's a misdemeanor, and felony false imprisonment. I reviewed the affidavit of arrest, and I do find probable cause. You're entitled to be represented by a lawyer, and I'm going to provisionally appoint the Office of the Public Defender to represent you. After today, you can hire private counsel, or if you qualify, the court would appoint the public defender to represent you after you complete the required affidavit. We don't have a witness here to testify regarding conditions of release.
Your Honor, if I may.
Yes.
I did speak with the alleged victim. She was not able to attend only due to work obligations. She is requesting contact. She stated that although they currently live together, arrangements have been made with the defendant's parents that for the defendant to stay with her parents for the time being. And although there is alcohol referenced in the account, the defendant does not have problems with alcohol and that she rarely drinks.
That's what the alleged victim told you.
That's what the alleged victim stated, yes.
So say that again, although it's referenced in the affidavit, what?
Although alcohol is referenced in the affidavit, the alleged victim stated that the defendant rarely drinks.
Your Honor, if I may add.
Yes.
PTR in the jail has informed me that the defendant would qualify for direct PTR, but she is currently self-harm status. I just wanted to add that information to the record.
Unfortunately, due to the charges, we cannot do direct PTR. And I don't feel in this case that PTR would be needed as an extra to bond.
Right. Well, and the cover sheet says doesn't qualify anyway.
Correct.
Yeah. All right. So, Ms. Allen, is there anything else you would like to add with regard to potential conditions based on what Officer Hill said?
Yes, Your Honor. I understand that they've spoken with the victim in this case and that she's indicated she's requesting contact. The state does have concerns allowing contact without us having the opportunity to question the victim at the initial appearance, to ask about any other indicators or red flags, any other factors that we would take into consideration before making that recommendation to the court. We also, while we can assume that it's the individual that's speaking with them, we cannot confirm the identity of the person that they spoke to on the phone, nor if there was anybody else present that was causing duress or any other unknown factors that may have attributed to that conversation. And so the state is asking that the court remain the no contact or that the court order no contact as a condition of bond. If the court is inclined to grant contact over the state's objection, we would be asking that you order separate residences as the victim indicated, or the alleged individual they spoke with on the phone indicated.
All right. Defense, you wish to be heard?
Yes, Your Honor. We would just request no hostile contact at this time in line with what the alleged victim has already indicated she wants, and with the fact, as already talked about, separate residents have already been established. We have no objection to that part of it.
Officer Hill, can you elaborate on how you're confident that you were actually speaking with the alleged victim?
The phone number that we called was provided to us by the arresting agency on a victim notification card. So the information came directly from St. Cloud Police Department, and that's the phone number that I called and reached the alleged victim. And when I asked her name, she gave me the name of the alleged victim in the police report.
Didn't I read here that the alleged victim does not want to prosecute?
Yes, Your Honor, that is indicated in paragraph number, I believe it's number 2 or 3. I did read that as well, Judge.
Yeah, I thought I did. Okay, so based on the circumstances described in the affidavit and by Officer Hill, I'm going to set bond on count 1 at $500, bond on count 2 at $2,500 for total bond of $3,000. The conditions of release are going to be no weapons or firearms while on release, maintain a separate residence from the alleged victim, may return home one time with law enforcement to obtain personal belongings. Based on representations of pretrial release, I'm going to order that you reside with your parents, Ms. Castellucci, and I will allow non-hostile contact, but you may not reside together. And I'm allowing that based on the investigation by pretrial release and based on the fact that the alleged victim has indicated she prefers not to prosecute.
Your Honor?
Yes.
Would you consider, I do not know if weapons are required at her employment. Would you consider no weapons outside of her employment?
And for the record, the state would object to that, Your Honor. I think no weapons is appropriate given the allegations in this case.
I don't want there to be any indication that the court is giving any preferential treatment. On the other hand, I do expect people to be gainfully employed. I think that
anecdotally, Your Honor, I can tell you that there have been instances where individuals are employed in the same field and have had a no firearm order and have had other positions where a firearm was not necessary through their employment.
all right. I think I'll leave that in place because I am concerned that the perception that preferential treatment could be given. So I'm going to maintain the no weapons or firearms.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, anything else?
Nothing further from the state, Judge?
Nothing further from the defense, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate everyone's patience today. It's been a wild day. We'll be in recess.